top 5 favorite fragrances of September 2023. This is not a sponsored video. All thoughts and opinions are my own, like always. And I'll put the discount codes, discount links in the comment section below in case you guys want to support the channel. But of course, buy where you're comfortable, all right? That's all up to you. Now, in 5th place, we got Tuxedo by YSL. And this has made a little bit of a resurgence. I will say that I don't predict that this will be on the list next month. Just because, I mean, if y'all saw the video I made of this fragrance in the middle of the month, I still love it. But as it's been macerating, as it's been sitting in my collection, it's taken a stronger patchouli smell to it. And I'm not the biggest fan of patchouli-dominated fragrances. What I loved about Tuxedo before was it was just this very sexy, sensual, bourbon vanilla sort of fragrance, right? And it was just so addicting to me. And it's still good. And I gave it a couple wears this month. And in the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, this is so good. But then as it continued to sort of dry down, I was like, dang. Why does it smell a bit different? And I made this point, in case you didn't watch this video, that once I got COVID, last October, when I tried smelling Tuxedo again after that, when I got my sense of smell back, this is the only fragrance that had somewhat of a change to it. And I don't keep this separate from my other fragrances because I know somebody asked, well, maybe it's the way that it was stored, but none of the other scents that I've worn or that I've tried there was not really a crazy change besides Salt and Pepper. So Salt and Pepper by Precious Liquid actually got better to me. But I think that's because, I don't know, somebody mentioned the term macerating. They're like, the longer that it sits, it can smell better with certain niche fragrances. So that one blew me away. But this one took more of a turn in a negative direction. All right. So the reason I keep saying that it's still a good fragrance is because I don't want to put you off from trying it. But yeah, I know it says patchouli right there anyways, but I just didn't want it to be that dominant with it. Anyways, good fragrance, decent longevity. We're talking like 5 to 6 hours of like noticeable wear, especially in that 5th to 6th hour, it stays closer to your skin, but you can apply this on your clothes and it'll last a longer amount of time. And it's just kind of like a classy sort of scent. So really, really enjoy this one. All right. In 4th place is Afternoon Swim by Louis Vuitton. So this fragrance, I'm actually happy to see both Afternoon Swim and Tuxedo in here because for a long time, these were the 2 designer fragrances that I was really just, I loved using them. You know, Tuxedo is YSL's their Privé collection, and Louis Vuitton doesn't have a Privé or a standard collection. I think all of them are just kind of Privé, if that makes sense, because they're all upwards of $230 or something like that. Sometimes it's $250, some people pay $275. All depends on where you are, right? But Afternoon Swim is just a simple, sexy orange fragrance. And it's perfect for warm weather, and it's still been really warm even though it's September. I was thinking that it would kind of start to cool down a little bit. Maybe I can wear Dior Homme 2020 more, but it still feels like summertime here, or maybe not as summery, but it's like 75 degrees, 79 degrees. So this is a perfect fragrance for that. And I did find myself wearing this a decent amount of times for sure. And it's like an old reliable fragrance. When I don't know what to wear, I look at Afternoon Swim and I'm like, come here. That's gonna be my scent, you know? So beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Whether or not it's worth it is up to you and your budget, all right? If buying a fragrance that's already $150 is pushing it for you, then I don't think it's gonna be worth it. I do know people complain about the longevity with this scent, so that's also the Achilles heel of Afternoon Swim. I don't wanna say what the longevity is for everybody else because it varies, but for me, I've still gotten complimented on this fragrance past 6 hours. But again, my skin tends to hold really well to some weaker fragrances that people complain about, just generally speaking, within the fragrance community. So just remember that I'm kind of an outlier in that regard. So 4th place, Afternoon Swim, Louis Vuitton. I really got to try Ombre Nomad. I still don't think it's going to supersede this one because I'm not the biggest fan of leathery fragrances, but we'll see. All right, in third place, we got a newcomer on the block. All right, we got Grey Vetiver by Tom Ford. Now, I know I just released my video on it a couple days ago, but that video was kind of sitting there for a little bit. So I've had a good amount of time with this fragrance, and the more I've worn it, y'all, the better it's gotten. All right, so I actually applied Grey Vetiver after my shower yesterday. I took a shower at maybe around like 3:30ish, and I applied this around 4 p.m. and I went somewhere, right? Today at 10:50 in the morning, I still smelled this on me. I only did 5 sprays, so I did one behind each ear, the back of my neck, the backs of my shoulder blades. You guys know my deal when it comes to just making sure I got that perfect scent bubble, right? And of course, in the beginning, like I said, like this is a fragrance that you gotta let it develop and you gotta see what it smells like on your skin. Because when you smell this on a test strip, it's gonna be so easy to pass it. You'll be like, it's giving me hand sanitizer vibes. Oh, it's giving me like an alcohol sort of, it's not really that interesting, or it can just kind of be a bit too sharp, right? But then the way that this dries down is like magnificent. See, I'm already stuttering because of this fragrance. But Grey Vetiver, if I had to find the right words for it, this is like my boss fragrance. This is my I'm dialed in fragrance. You know, like it's soapy, it's lemony, it's clean. The vetiver here, honestly, it adds like a sort of addicting, there's like a sensualness to this fragrance, like that is not noticeable up front. But for someone that is continuously smelling it, it just gets better and better. It's like, you know, when you're watching a movie, or let's say you haven't watched a movie, right? And you've just been seeing a lot of people's raving reviews on it. They're like, oh my God, this actor or this actress, like they're so fine, they're so hot, right? And as somebody that hasn't seen the movie yet, you're like, I don't get it. But then when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, this is what everybody is seeing, you know? So it's like, as you're watching it, they become more and more attractive to you. That's what Grey Vetiver is to me. So it just like, the more I wear it, even after, even at around midnight, I remember 12:30, I went to use the bathroom. Not that I should tell you guys my bathroom schedule, but I went to use the bathroom and I'm like, damn, that Grey Vetiver, it's still hitting. And like, I would just casually smell it, just like wafting a little bit. And I'm like, dang, it just smells so good with my skin chemistry. So Grey Vetiver is, well, first of all, I should have told y'all, this is marketed as unisex, but more on the masculine side. Afternoon swim, I really feel like anybody can wear it, but maybe it'll go a little bit more masculine. Grey Vetiver, I believe, is marketed as a masculine fragrance, but I feel like all of you ladies that are in the niche fragrance community, like this would not be a challenging fragrance at all. I think maybe for your average woman out there that is looking at the labeling of things and like really stays true to that, then they probably wouldn't look for Grey Vetiver. But again, for the niche connoisseurs, I could see a very feminine woman just being like, yeah, I could pull that off, right? It's a boss fragrance. Like, this is a confident, I'm sure of myself, let's get shit done, you know? So for me, like, I want to wear this type of scent when I'm dressed in like a white button down. Even, you know, I was dressed pretty casually yesterday and I just felt on top of the world. Like, there are certain fragrances that kind of, yes, they uplift your mood, but in like a business way. You know what I'm saying? Like a head honcho type of way. Not life of the party like Elysium, but more of just like there's a little bit of an intimidation factor with the smell. So this has been so lovely. And I know that people don't hail this as a sexy fragrance. And I understand that. In fact, somebody said that it's kind of like Prada L'Homme, but without the sexiness of Prada L'Homme. And I don't think that person meant that they smell the same, but they go in the same similar vein where they can be office fragrances. But for me, Prada L'Homme is a little bit too heavy. This is more my vibe for sure. Like fresh, lemony, soapy, just like it's confident but not cocky, and there's something so addicting about this fragrance that I've really been loving. So Grey Vetiver, really, really fire. In second place, I just mentioned it, Elysium by Roja Parfums. Is this a shocker? Is this a shocker that Elysium is on this list? No. I think Elysium has been on this list ever since I created this series. It's been like the one tried and true scent that hasn't gone anywhere. If it did disappear, it was probably for a month, or it was probably maybe in 5th place for 1 month, but it just continually goes. It's fighting for that 1 to 2 spot almost every single month. But I already said it's my life of the party scent. I mean, look at the juice. I'll let the juice explain that. I will say, with these fragrances that I've mentioned so far, and even with my number 1 spot, Afternoon Swim and Elysium are the ones I do more sprays of. So that can also be a reason why. Yes, I use it a good amount, but I use nearly double the amount of sprays with Elysium than I do with something like, oh great, well, I'll show you my number 1. Y'all already probably know what it is, but it's just so good. This is a juniper berry grapefruit fragrance. I find this to be a lemon pineapple cocktail scent on my skin. It's just fun. It's flirty. It's lively. It's super likable. It has the mass appeal. Compliment factor is off the charts with Elysium. And I'm talking from women, from men, everybody. Every single time I wear this, people just love on this fragrance. It smells so high quality, and it really sets you apart from the fragrances that everybody else around you will be wearing. So please ignore the discord around the fact that Elysium is too basic and it's not worth it to get. I think that if you surround yourself with a group of fragrance connoisseurs on a daily basis, or you live around a lot of people that are always wearing niche fragrances, sure, you might get that sort of feedback. But I honestly think you're only going to get that online. Like if you're in a Facebook group, or if you're in a fragrance forum, they'll probably hate on that, and that's about as negative as it would go. But in real life, people just love on this. I have never encountered anybody that has worn this fragrance, and it's just, yes, it's a niche scent, and yes, it has the mass appeal, but it's not something that smells like Bleu de Chanel or Dior Sauvage. And that's something that I always hear. They're like, oh, that's just a dupe of, or a clone of Sauvage, a dupe of Bleu de Chanel. And I'm like, what? Or a dupe of Aventus. Like, first of all, they're like the same price, so it's not really a dupe. But I don't think Aventus and Elysium smell similar at all. I think they're very different. I would never get the two of these fragrances confused. So to each their own with that. But second place, Elysium Roja Parfums. In first place is Aqua Oud by Precious Liquid. Now, I know you're looking at this fragrance and you're like, is that really first place? Because look how much juice this is used versus this one. And I totally get it. But this has 2 years in my collection. Aqua Oud has a couple months. And on top of that, this is a powerhouse scent. I only need 1 to 2 sprays of this fragrance. It's kind of like with Carlisle, right? I would rave before, when I was really using Carlisle. I would rave about it. But every single time I picked up the bottle, it's like I had a new bottle of Carlisle, because the juice felt like it never moved. You know, so that is going to be my prediction with Aqua Oud. That you're not really going to see a dent in it for a long time, because there's not really a need to use so much of it. This is one of those less is more type of fragrances for me, that I don't need everybody to know what I smell like, because the juice handles its own. This fragrance, you only need a couple sprays of it, and once somebody catches that whiff of Aqua Oud, it's so intoxicating and it reels them in. So I know how I said that Elysium is, it will set you apart from the crowd, right? But it still has that like really likableness to it. There's nothing polarizing about the fragrance. Take everything I said there, but switch out the polarizingness with Aqua Oud. Well, no, because I don't think, this is the better word, complex. Because Aqua Oud it's a likable scent when you wear it around people, and it draws a lot of curious, like, oh wow, what is that? Because this sort of like oud, first of all, is not really a note that you smell in a lot of modern fragrances that a majority of people are wearing, because it's a polarizing note, because it's complicated or complex. If you don't know what oud is, just think of like a dirty, earthy sort of woody smell, like a barnyard, animal barn house sort of smell, right? That sometimes it can smell like shit. That's why it's polarizing, right? But with Aqua Oud, it also doesn't really smell like a Western fragrance. Like, when I would talk to you guys about Risala back in the day by Arabian Oud, right? Just Arabian fragrances in general. How when you wear them in the West, it's like it blows people away, because first of all, the longevity is not to be played with. Second of all, it's just something people have never smelled before, and they just become like, almost addicted to that smell because of how different it is. That, I feel like Aqua Oud goes in that direction, but it's likable to the Western nose. So, like I've said, I've told my fuss story so many times. And when I wore this in July, it was July or August, I was wearing this to like clubs, parties, like day ragers, everything. And people, most of the time it was women, were going nuts over the scent. They were like, you smell so good. When I would tell them what it is, and this is the great part about wearing niche fragrances, you never have to gatekeep, y'all. Because when you say, oh, it's Aqua Oud by Precious Liquid, they're like, is that at Sephora? Is that at Ulta? Like, where do I get that fragrance? And when I have to explain, oh, it's a niche scent, so typically you got to get them online. I don't even think you can find it at Nordstrom or Neiman. People are already put off. They're like, well, I don't want to buy a perfume online. So you could, and then also, if that doesn't work, when they see the price point, again, remember, most people, they're not paying past that range of like $150 or like, you know, designer range, like 75 to 120. That's the sweet spot. When they see something that's over $200 or even close to $300, they're not going to go for it, right? They'll be like, oh shoot, yeah, I'm not going to do that, right? But they just love the smell. So this one, compliments galore. It was a beast. With longevity, we're talking upwards of 10 hours, no problem. And again, that's with 2 sprays of this fragrance. So you get the uniqueness of having nobody else in the room smell like you, but you get the mass appeal of everybody wanting to smell like that because it's so different because of all the compliments that you're receiving. And you know how people are, right? Everyone, whether they want to admit it or not, people want to be set apart from the crowd. Whenever like that is just something, it's a common thing, whether people say it out loud or not. When there's something that makes them that makes them stand apart, they enjoy it in a positive way, right? So here, like, this just checks off all of those boxes. And even for people that are into niche fragrances, this is still a house that is really slept on, and it's smaller, right? This is a lot smaller than Roja. This is a lot smaller than MFK. Did I say that? MFK, yeah. MFK, I was thinking MGM. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I watched that Raiders game. But Roja, Creed, Parfums de Marly, these are huge niche brands that still majority of people don't know about, which is why I still say, hey, if you want to wear Leighton, go for it. It's yes, it's gaining in popularity, but in terms of the real world out there, not everyone is wearing more Leighton in comparison to Dior Sauvage, right? So this is like niche. So this is if you want all the compliments, but you want the rarity and just the uniqueness. All right, so there it is, my top 5 favorite fragrances of the month. Again, y'all, discount codes, discount links for these things gonna be pinned in the comment section below. Let me know what your top 5 are, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.